we receive a lot of encouragement in our practice, particularly in the people who have taken on the training in the monastic form or taken on the training as devoted lay practitioners, upasakas, to really keep in mind the long-term potential, the long-term goal, the ultimate goal of practice, of realizing liberation. The Buddha talks about it many ways and forms in the teachings, not to get lost in settling, becoming complacent in many aspects of the practice, but to always keep in mind that there is a possibility, a possibility of complete liberation. And I was remembering the teacher Ruth Dennison, who passed away a number of years ago, also emphasized that. I mentioned this, I think, fairly recently, but emphasized that same thing on her in her last days and weeks and months when a group went down from Abhayagiri to visit her and to wish her well. And one of her very strong and impressive comments was, don't settle for just plain happiness. You have the possibility of full liberation, essentially was her message. Don't just settle for mere happiness. So that's a focus of our teachings. I spend a lot of time myself reflecting on that potential and encourage other people to do that. And so we gear our hearts and our minds towards those teachings that help us experience or lead to the experience of the unconditioned, the experience of the unborn, the undying, the unoriginated, the uncreated, and keep pointing back to that all the time. Yeah, at the same time, we do live in the world and have to negotiate our ways around the world, whether it's in the monastery or outside of the monastery, and try to make it a useful place to practice and to create skillful and good supportive conditions that are part of the conditioned realm. So we have to learn how to negotiate, in a sense, the conditioned realm as part of our path to the unconditioned. This time of year is an interesting time of year when I think about it. The messages that are out there can be very mixed in different ways. This, the darkened days, the short days, the long nights, the coolness of the air. Ajahn was mentioning that at our Posita meeting today. The signals of nature are moving towards quiet and internalizing and contemplation and stilling, and it's kind of a nice, delightful experience to see that and to experience that at this time of year. I think we're all ready for it as well after a busy year of much engagement and projects and activities. And the holiday messages, in their best form, like Christmas, honoring the birth and life of a very compassionate figure in the world, and the good side of Christmas is remembering those qualities and nurturing care and concern, compassion, and skillfulness in relationships, sometimes turning more towards family, friends, and the people that we live with, whether it's our family of origin or our new family, say here in the monastery, our family of monastics and supporters, friends, neighbors. So many good qualities, many good aspects of this season come to mind. If you get lost in some of the other parts of it, you see just kind of the whole very strong side of consumer mentality and acquisition, kind of the frenzy of the world, the material world, seeking gain and the businesses making money at the best time of year and people selling products and just kind of getting wrapped up in all of that. It can be a frenzy, just going into a shopping mall or Walmart or something like that at this time of year with gaudy decoration and blazing music and all that stuff. It's at least those of us who are living in a monastery or living around a monastery and lead a quiet life, it's kind of an affront to the senses, really. So it's kind of a mixed time of year, depending on where you want to put your focus. But to learn how to live skillfully in the conditioned realm as part of what we need to do, even on this path to the unconditioned. But learning how to be part of the world, live in the world, but not be of the world, not get lost in the worldliness of the world. And to learn how to navigate in a way that is still conducive to the path. How to establish attitudes and mind states and just ways of being, whether it's in the monastery or outside of the monastery. Even in the monastery, we are very much we have a part in the world. We don't isolate ourselves and shun the world. We might try to step away from the worldliness of those unskillful aspects and nurture skillful ways of being in the world. But we're not apart from it. So in terms of the most skillful ways of developing ourselves, in the worldly sense or in the realms of the conditioned is, of course, the development and abiding in what we call the four Brahma Viharas, the divine abidings, and not to neglect our attention to moving into removing the obstructions from experiencing these mind states and dwelling in them. Vihara, a dwelling place. These are abodes, the divine abodes, the places where the states of mind that the beings in the highest spiritual realms dwell in for long periods of time, and that we bring into our lives and dwell in them in this existence as well. We can cultivate them and make them our primary abiding place in the world. They are of the world, they are of the conditioned realm. But part of an important, very important part of the path. towards total freedom. So, a lot of times the teachings around the Four Divine Abidings, Four Divine Abodes, the Brahmavihara, is towards developing a meditation technique to increase loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy and equanimity, metta, karuna, mudita, and upekkha. And that's the way it's come in many of the teachings, and sometimes even like in the traditional 10-day retreats at retreat centers, or however long, you hear people talk about, these are vipassana, quote unquote, vipassana retreats. You go to do vipassana at these places, at some of the retreat centers is how it's taught anyway. Not all of them, but sometimes you hear that kind of paradigm, doing vipassana. And then is kind of the add-on, the last day in some of the meditation retreats, they kind of shift to doing metta. And the emphasis is on doing an active practice of metta bhavana, developing it through active reflections, which I'm sure pretty much everybody who's listening to this is familiar with. And it's not to denigrate that, really, in any way. But my experience is that I get more benefit from reflecting on the Brahmaviharas, not as a meditation technique, or not as doing metta, or developing it with an active program kind of a thing, but more of a place to slowly learn to abide in, just as just as it's translated, a divine abiding, a divine abode, a very, very lovely, beautiful state of mind to experience and settle into, that comes as a result of looking at what's obstructing it, looking closely at the kilesa, the mind states, the obstructive mind states that stand in the way of opening to these kinds of sublime mind states. Certainly reflections can help us establish some of those mind states. But if we don't see clearly the obstructions, the states of mind that block them, then we're maybe only doing it halfway, because if we don't take care of those underlying tendencies that lurk there as potentials, that are part of the conditioned realm too, part of our inheritance from unwise attention, if you will. If we don't see those clearly, then it's so easy for them to arise and catch us off guard, even if we don't think we have such states of mind very much. If we don't attend to them when they do arise with clarity and honesty, then there's always the potential for them kind of rising up, coming from left field when we're not aware of it, and catching us off guard. It's kind of like the First Noble Truth. We have to fully understand the experience of dukkha before we can start to let it go. So, starting to own up to and recognize when these conditions, these mind states appear to us and we experience them. They are stimulated by outside circumstances, and we have these patterns that appear in our experience, mental states. And we have to meet them with honesty and recognition without getting lost in them, without moving into them, indulging them, increasing them. So states like, for instance, related to the first Brahma-vihara, the obstructive state that can rear up is this, of course, ill will, anger, aversion, and all of its unfortunate manifestations. If we get lost in it, there might be something that arises in our experience. Somebody who's, maybe unskillful or unpleasant to be around, or is triggering something in us that rises up as a reaction of ill will, aversion, anger, and to be not to develop aversion to the aversion and just try and turn away from it and pretend it's not there, to try and bury it, or feel like we shouldn't feel that way, but to turn very gently towards it and to fully understand it, to fully face it and see that state of mind as it is experienced right in the present moment. Most skillfully, I think, through attending to the bodily energies. If you get involved in the storyline too much, that he did this, she did this, they said that kind of thing, then you're just increasing the proliferative tendency around it. So it's that old kind of saying is like dropping the story. We need to drop the story and turn to the affective experience, the feeling, to really understand it without getting lost in it and without proliferating. And if we can do this and develop the bravery to face the unpleasant feeling, because it is a very unpleasant feeling. There's the clenching in the stomach, or the tightness in the cheeks, or the screwing up of the facial muscles, or however it's manifested, the rising of heat. Sometimes if it's quite intense, there's a real flush that's really unpleasant. And our MO around that is to try and get away from it. When nobody wants to have unpleasant feeling. So we sometimes get lost in the storyline, trying to, justify, explain, present our counter-arguments, all these kind of conversations in our head that we go through, trying to basically not have to deal with the pain. So if we can kind of get past that and realize that we can probably bear up and experience it just by facing it and allowing it to manifest as an energetic quality through the body. It's a form of energy. And just to see if we can gently bring our breathing and our kind attention and spaciousness to that experience itself, and not get wrapped up in the whole storyline, but attend to it on that very first body level, and then deeper in the heart, the contracted state, to just allow ourselves the space to be with that, and to fully understand it without moving into it and encouraging it. That's a very excellent skill, and it takes a lot of patience to do that, a lot of spacious kindness and patience to do that. And then doing that is what allows that opposite quality, that sense of kindness, spaciousness, gentleness, warmth to arise. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're, endorsing somebody's unskillful actions that cause you to feel that way, but you're just learning to be able to experience a broader sense of kindness, well-wishing to oneself by owning up to the truth, and to others when we realize that, people make mistakes. Ourselves, we make mistakes. Other people make mistakes. And to kind of unentangle ourselves from the enmeshed, obstructive mind state that can come from that. And to allow that sense of, I wish myself well. I don't want to feel these kinds of states. And in the same way, those other people that are maybe triggering this have that same kind of aversion, anger, ill will, and they're feeling it just the same as I am. May they be well. And realizing that if they experience that kind of relaxation from those tense mind states, then they're going to act in ways that are much more pleasant for us too. So it's a win-win situation. Or the afflictive states that can sometimes come around kind of this, they call the opposite of karuna, compassion, of cruelty, which is probably a word that is quite extreme, and that's how it may be experienced in its more extreme forms. That kind of just wishing harm, in a sense, for other people. Sometimes, you might see bits and pieces of that arise in subtler ways when somebody who's been really unskillful kind of receives the karmic consequence of that and experiences some misfortune as a result of their unskillfulness, or the tables turn and they get their comeuppance in a sense, and you start to take maybe a momentary brief delight in the fact that they're getting theirs now. That happens so much in the world of politics. I think that there's so much anger and tension and contention in the political world these days, and sometimes that manifests in that kind of sense of revenge when the tides turn, which they always do. The tides always turn. And so that kind of sense of, insensitivity, or cruelty, or when somebody is experiencing suffering and difficulty, and there may be an inclination for whatever reason to turn a cold shoulder to that. It's a really unpleasant state of mind, and to, in lesser ways than the ones maybe I've talked about, we can see that sometimes that comes about in our own hearts. And when that does, even in a small way, what does that feel like? Turning our attention towards, again, that sense, of constriction and tightness and unpleasantness when we experience those moments of kind of cool indifference or insensitivity towards somebody else's suffering, and to allow that in, and to realize that when that does happen, we're just experiencing the results of our own imperfections, and again, it's the same that other people experience when they go through that same quality. That's what compassion means: is learning to be with the passions, the difficulties as they manifest. recognizing and that when somebody else is suffering, it's the same as our suffering. It's sort of like the quality of quivering with or trembling with, in resonance with someone else's suffering. If we know it in ourselves, then the natural response will be to feel it at some level when somebody else is experiencing that, and to recognize how, as much as we want not to have to experience that, to be free from suffering, then we can also experience that quality of wanting others to be free from suffering, because it's the same. It's all the same. But you have to understand and experience your own honestly, again, without jumping into it, making a meal of it, not buying into the story, but just being with the unpleasantness of that to the point where we recognize it, fully understand it, so that we can then move towards letting it go, relinquishing it. Another kind of afflictive quality that we can experience related to the third Brahma Vihara is that sense of envy when someone else is experiencing some sort of success, particularly if it's something that, say we want to experience ourselves but don't have success or some sort of gain. Recognition, and is a very unpleasant state of mind, but isn't uncommon either for, us even in small circumstances, saying that, sometimes you see it when you're wanting to get someone's attention or care or concern, and maybe they're giving it to somebody else, giving them support or offering them praise, recognition for something they've done, and you're going, well, what about me? What about me? And kind of ignoring the fact that somebody else might be receiving some justifiable recognition or support, and that they're getting some good feelings from that. We get lost in our, what about me? Even if it's a subtle kind of a thing. And how, what does that feel like? That's an unpleasant feeling to have that running around in your head. Again, it's the same approach in a sense as experiencing that kind of energy and owning up to it, saying, okay, well, that's some sort of conditioned wish for recognition, as long as we're still subject to things like praise and blame and success and failure and those kinds of things, then when somebody else gets something that we'd like to be getting, that sense of envy can arise. And to know that honestly, and not to get lost in self-flagellation for experiencing any of these kinds of states, because they're just part of our conditioning, part of our patterns that we've inherited for who knows whatever reason. But to recognize them and then allow them to slowly pass as an energetic state as we attend to that with kind attention, and to let it dissipate. And then being able maybe to turn towards that other being who's receiving something pleasant, gaining something from being praised or some sort of material gain or that's a result of their skillful action. And to recognize that when you do feel that, you have a sense of pleasure, and to resonate with that other person's success. It's sometimes a rare commodity in the world to really open up and feel a real sense of genuine delight when someone else has received something quite nice. And then just to experience the good feeling that comes from that kind of joy that's in sympathy with someone else. I think, related to the Brahmavihara of equanimity, it's, what we experience when we're not equanimous is just being pulled around, just, again, like the worldly winds, just always being pulled towards pleasure, away from pain, gain and loss, being, buffeted around by seeking gain, avoiding loss, praise, blame, seeking good reputation, avoiding ill repute, and just that kind of bouncing back and forth that we go through in relation to the ways, the natural ways of the world of opposites. And experiencing those, of course, and then realizing that that's the way the world is, and we can either choose to get lost in it and repeatedly get overwhelmed by these opposite states of mind, of experience, or we can choose to see them with clarity and develop more of a sense of being able to be with these opposites in a more clear, knowing state of mind. Equanimity has a very strong quality of wisdom, discernment associated with it that we can employ to the ways of the world, the ways of normal human society. And learn to kind of step back from that reactivity, that overreactivity to conditions, because they're always going to fluctuate, they're always going to change. So, just kind of owning up to the underlying states that obstruct these Brahmaviharas is our basic, practice mode. And then allowing and encouraging those states of kindness and sensitivity, compassion, warmth, well-wishing, quiet joy at our own gains and success without attachment in others, more so even with others, and that sense of evenness and understanding of the ways of the world, and to settle into those as dwelling places in our hearts, not just as a practice, but as an actual abiding, to slowly make that our frame of reference, stepping away from the normal ways of the world, and living in the heavenly realms in our minds, allowing that space to open up and develop by seeing the disadvantage of what we normally do, turning away from that. I think also equanimity is really so important part, and it's an important part of the other three Brahma Viharas in a sense too, because when you have equanimity, you know, it's much less likely to get lost, say, in some of the what the commentaries anyway, I think quite skillfully call the near enemies of the Brahma Viharas, so that if we have a sense of alert clarity and recognition about states of mind and a certain sense of awareness that comes with equanimity, say in regards to the development of loving kindness, then that'll help prevent us from sliding into what they say is like the near enemy, which would be something like attachment. Because, you know, with clarity we can see when it's moving beyond that kind of impersonal, in a sense, in a good kind of impersonal, not specific only to one person, wishing them well-being or happiness, but a global quality of kindness, well-wishing that is independent of individuality. It's a feeling for all beings and a very sublime state to abide in. It gets lost in attachment when it narrows down, maybe to one individual or single individuals that we happen to get along with or happen to like or maybe are slightly attracted to or whatever. That's when we're sliding into that kind of attachment. And one of those kind of things, something for monastics to particularly pay attention to is when we're developing kindness, loving kindness reflections, not letting it slide into that kind of, say, maybe affection for an individual or individuals, because even if it's not moving into full-on sense desire or sexual desire, the kind of Mara is oftentimes right hanging on the edges, waiting for somebody to fall into something like affection for one, an individual. It's kind of the entry point for turning that wonderful quality of loving kindness, which is universal to all beings, into something that's more involved with it in the realm of attachment or clinging or unclarity. So that equanimity aspect, the wisdom aspect, helps us prevent ourselves from sliding into that kind of near enemy of metta. Same with karuna, compassion, that if we're feeling a sense of a compassion for someone else and their suffering, if we're not careful, we're not mindful or equanimous, we can slide into a sense of overwhelm, where we become too identified with or attached to the suffering of someone else. And we don't really know how to handle that. We absorb too much into it. We don't have the proper set of boundaries that come from clarity in terms of getting overwhelmed with the suffering of the world, whether it's our own or someone else's. So equanimity helps to keep that compassion stable and clear, with a real sense of balance, of knowing when and how we can help without getting lost or overwhelmed. Or the Brahma Vihara of mudita could tend towards getting overexcited, maybe over-involved, over maybe even to the point of slight agitation about something that's happening that's really good. Maybe our son or our daughter or our partner or fellow monastic, friend, whatever, is experiencing something quite wonderful, and we get kind of lost in that, or overexcited, or even for ourselves, and then we've lost the sense of balance of, okay, well, yeah, this is good, and it's to be delighted in and appreciated, and it's part of the conditioned realm, and to keep it going, takes constant management, and things will probably shift, and we may not always experience this kind of success. The tides might turn, the blame might happen again, the loss might happen again. So not to negate the quality of the good experience, or to look at it as sour grapes. Oh, it's gonna go away anyway. But to have that kind of delight in goodness, and the realization that it's a conditioned thing that needs to be sustained. So I think equanimity really helps to enhance the other three Brahma Viharas and stabilize them, without letting equanimity itself sink into its near enemy of indifference. Sometimes we can slide into thinking that, oh well, everything's impermanent. We were talking about this at tea time, one question and answer period during tea time. It's sort of like, well, if everything's impermanent, and it's going to change, will that lead to kind of a sense of, indifference, or nihilism even? And if we let our equanimity slide in that direction, then we start to really lose the benefits of all of these other Brahma Viharas. We won't be able to really sustain a sense of well-wishing and wish for the end of suffering for others, and delight in their joyful experiences. We won't be able to do that if we slide into the near enemy of indifference. So that's not what equanimity is at all. Equanimity is, the best of that kind of clear seeing, and the ability to realize that all of these states of mind that we're looking for are the result of intentional good reflection, good action, results of karma, in a sense, is part of equanimity, that kind of wisdom that knows how these states come into being, and how we can keep them and maintain them as skillful qualities, like in right effort, raising up, establishing, and then maintaining these wholesome qualities that serve as parts of the path within this conditioned realm. And one of the kind of neat things I think about the whole thing is that as we develop these, we can also start to realize, as the chanting goes, the stock phrases that's found in the suttas regarding the four Brahma Viharas, that we can develop them to the point where they are abundant, exalted, and immeasurable. These are very expansive, spacious states of mind, and the actual process of developing them results in that exalted, abundant, measureless state of mind. By letting go of those constricted states of mind, the actual quality of mind opens, relaxes, expands, broadens, and the actual experience of each of those individual four Brahma Viharas is then allowed to grow and expand into a very wide, open state of awareness. Which can't really develop if we're involved with our constricted, if we're not aware of those constricted states of mind. So it all comes back to recognizing and owning up to those kilesa, those states of mind, and letting them go, relinquishing them through clear understanding, through not avoiding, through allowing ourselves to experience, and then opening up to where a real sense of comfort and happiness can arise from letting go of these underlying states. And experience the best of the conditioned realm. The Brahma Viharas are the best you can do in the conditioned realm. And again, we, even on our quest towards realizing the unconditioned, we have to negotiate our way through the world, through society, and react in the most skillful way to the conditions around us. And the more we do that, the more just this, light ease of being can manifest. And as the old habits kind of slowly whittle away, as they slowly wear away, how to be in this world while we're still part of the world just becomes more and more present, part of our lives, and a place where we can comfortably abide as we negotiate closer to realizing the unconditioned. So I'll leave that there for tonight's reflection.